Welcome back, you guys, to GC365. I'm Blake.
I'm Cheyenne.
And we are on day 97. Keep going, you guys. You're almost to 100. Great job. I'm one of the designers here. You may have seen my videos before. Cheyenne, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm one of Blake's best friends. We've been friends since third grade.
Mm-hmm.
Started playing Club Penguin and been besties ever since.
Start playing Club Penguin. You never know. You might meet your next best friend.
Oh, you can't tell them that. It's not a thing anymore. R.I.P. Club Penguin. Anyways, I grew up going to Gold Creek. Been a leader for a long time. And yes, it feels like a family here. I love it. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So today thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Today we're continuing in Deuteronomy, continuing in Luke, and then we have our Psalms and Proverbs. Now, in Deuteronomy, this is kind of a tough one for Moses. This is where he is coming to the end of his line. He's 120 years old, and he is now appointing Joshua to lead the people of Israel to the promised land. And that's hard for Moses.
Oh, absolutely. And it's also hard for like anybody who's been leading because he's pretty much the only leader they've ever known.
Right.
But I do love it in Deuteronomy chapter 31. In this whole first section, it's kind of outlining how Moses is almost like inspiring confidence within them. He's like, I know I won't be your leader anymore, but I trust that God is going to take you far, or that God will step in and appoint somebody, or God will ultimately be the one who's, watching over you.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to Joshua and the calling that is constantly being asked is to be strong and courageous. And we get to see the first start of that scripture because it's repeated so many times in the Bible. And then we have the verse Joshua 1:9, and we have Deuteronomy 31:6, and many
countless other times where we're like instructed to be strong and courageous.
You were telling me a little bit about your thoughts from that, and care to share any of those?
Yeah, for sure. With Joshua in specific, he's told to be strong and courageous like a handful of times, and I think that is so interesting because he's being commissioned into this wild journey and becoming a leader, like in a position of leadership now. And I think it's so cool how he's in this position of leadership and constantly being reminded to be strong and courageous. And the first time he's probably heard those words were definitely inspirational to him, I can imagine. But you were saying earlier how you've heard the words be strong and courageous countless amounts of times.
And I feel like I've heard that since I was like just a kid. Like my mom would always tell me that, and it was a verse I've known for my whole life. And it was never something that I would think too deeply on, but to really try and apply that calling to my life now can put me so far and can push me so far to do greater and bigger things in my faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it that we've got that example of Joshua, who's a leader. He's in a position of leadership. Yeah. He has a lot of people he can speak to and influence. And so that reminds like me as a leader, or anybody in a pastor position, or anybody like just in some sort of position of leadership too. It's just a great reminder to continue to encourage your leaders, because these are things that they have to hear. Yeah. Like be strong and courageous is something that like I want to continue to remind you of. And it would be amazing for somebody, even though like we find ourselves in leadership positions or even not in a leadership position, like the encouragement is just as important.
Yep. Totally.
And I love that it's repeated and repeated.
So
it just kind of like outlines
it
outlines how important it is, even for somebody in a position of leadership, to hear that all the time.
Yeah. And continuing in Deuteronomy, we have the Song of Moses, the song that he sings to the people to really nail in this message of a fear for our God. And it's the respectful fear. It's not the frightening fear or a scared fear. It's the fearing of knowing his power and knowing just how much he does for us and he has done for us.
Yeah.
What were some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, the first thought that I had at the end of chapter 31 going into 32, and we actually get into the song, was how interesting it was that these words were communicated in the form of a song.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of like Almighty God who can like, just he's like so big and can do anything.
Right.
And he's like, let's make a song. No, but it's amazing. It's just so cool that I loved how he recognized the importance of these words and how song like has been important before and influential before, and how he wanted to have people remember the words that he needed them to hear, right? And for generations too. So he's like, how do I get these people to remember something? Let's make it a song.
Let's make it a song. Well, and I think I had read that on a commentary that Moses after 3 sermons, he changed the way he gave his messages in the form of a song because it was easier to remember. They didn't have the Bible then. It was still in progress. And so the way that they would pass down was by the trusted knowledge of their generations. And yeah, I mean, you were telling me about how like just every now and then you'll get a song stuck in your head.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Well, I was telling Blake earlier that sometimes it's unfortunate that a song like Crazy Frog will get stuck in my head. And of course it has to be Crazy Frog. But there's times where, there's times where great songs like a song that I love from Upper Room is called I Just Love You. And that song gets stuck in my head all the time.
Yeah.
The tune of that song is just kind of one that will, I don't know, it just gets stuck in my head. And so I'll find myself like getting out of my car, walking into the gym, and this song is playing in my head, and it's repeating the words like, I just love you, I just love you. So all day long, like I've got this song stuck in my head, and I get to tell Jesus, I just love you, because these words are attached to this music.
Yeah.
And I love that about countless worship songs, is that these incredible words, like often inspired from the Bible, and like the word gets stuck in our head because it's in the form of a song.
Yeah, I want to shout out my mom. Ever since I was a kid, she would always sing Jesus, lover of my soul. And so that's just something that I've just always known in my heart, like that simple little message. I think, we just wanted to find the beauty in such a tough message that this song was, that Moses was sharing with them.
Well, totally. And like your mom probably heard that song when she was younger and like, instilled it in you, or just totally sang it over you, or things like that. And that's kind of a generational thing. Along with this song, the importance of it being in like a musical form is that they like, even it says they even taught it to their children, and so it's carried on as like it testifies against their people, but it is important word that was God inspired, God breathed, and
totally.
And so the fact that it is a song and they were able to teach it to their children, it instantly became a generational classic.
A bop, as you might say.
Yeah. A bop of sorts.
Getting into Luke. Luke was so beautiful. Just this message of worry. We were talking through this. Do you want to share some of your initial thoughts on that?
I just love it. There were so many times where I was reading it that I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But I mean, so it begins with the story of the rich man.
Yes. So Jesus is sharing with someone who calls from the crowd. He's sharing the story of a rich man, and then he continues on and shares about worry and how to deal with worry. And the verse that I think stuck out to both of us was verse 24, where it says, in my translation, look at the ravens. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for God feeds them, and you are far more valuable to him than any birds. Look at the ravens. It's such a small thing that we take for granted, and the fact that their systems are still so complex,
right?
And it's such a beautiful thing that God created, and we are even more complex than that. And if God cares so much about the birds, imagine how much more he cares about us and will provide for our needs.
Right, exactly. And then also like on the conversation of worry, when it tells us to like fear not, little flock,
Yeah.
For it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Like tying that back to considering the ravens and the lilies and the grass and all of these things that do have systems, but we do have a really complex system. Like God created all of these things. He knows exactly how the ravens function and what they need, just as he knows how we function and what we need. So that kind of brings me peace is, yes, I can have faith that he will deliver me the kingdom and that I shouldn't worry about maybe my like finances or this bill or my next meal or things like that. But it's just something that we worry about as human beings. But that said, we were created with these complex systems and these wild thoughts or these, even just the ability to, like process anxious times. But that said, God created us. Like he knows, he created the ravens. He knows what they need and how to provide best for them or how to like, their systems. But he also created us. And he knows that we have to process these worries and these anxieties.
Right. And it, and with that, it could be just as easy. God and Jesus could tell them just as easily, like, just have faith, because it's a lot easier said than done. And with him understanding that, it's so awesome that he can give us such cool analogies, like looking at the ravens, because he knows that we do worry and he knows that it is something that
totally
we process.
Yeah, it says that in verse 30, and it says, your Father knows that you need them. Like all of these things the nations seek after, your Father knows that you need them. Yeah. Instead, seek after his kingdom and these things will be added to you.
So good.
So good.
Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, I actually do love verse 34. It says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
Right.
That is super neat. So if my treasures are in like, oh, I'm working all day because I need this money and I'm going to buy these things, like maybe that's like like some sort of anything with monetary value or material, like any material possession. It might be like a temporary fleeting like joy, but that's not where my treasure is. Like where my treasure is in relationships and in my relationship with the Lord, like, or the joyful parts of my day. So where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I think that is so neat because I can totally get caught up in, I got this new computer and it's so exciting and I get to, like I just get so excited about it, but that's not where my heart is, know? And so just like check myself how much time I'm spending with these things that don't really matter, because where my treasure is, like my heart is there too.
Yeah, it's so good. Highlight that verse, everybody. And Psalms, I think it ties with the story that we get to hear about in Deuteronomy. Just really calling attention to that fear we have as Christians for our God. And there was a verse you highlighted in that one?
Yeah, it was verse 42. It says, they did not remember his power or the day when he redeemed them from the foe. They kind of pointed out to me that like all of the, I don't know, maybe wrath or other things we read about in this psalm, it's just kind of tied to that they didn't remember his power. Like we hear about all of these, I don't know, in a lot of the psalm, it's kind of things that are almost difficult to read because they really paint a picture and it's like a powerful picture, and they didn't remember that. So that kind of ties back to how they needed the song and they needed to be reminded.
Totally. I agree. And then in Proverbs, it's short, 3 verses, but what really stuck out to me was verse 23. It says, the wise don't make a show of their knowledge, but fools broadcast their foolishness. And I think it's a quick little reminder about the humbleness that we're called to have as Christians. And there was a commentary I had read, and it was saying, the wise have quiet confidence. And I really like the oxymoron of quiet confidence. And that's something I really want to apply in my life.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So do you have any thoughts on that?
No, pretty much the same thing. That was very, very cool.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And again, stay tuned. You're almost to day 100, but thanks for checking in.
Thank you.